Cubs take 3 out of 4 against Pittsburgh, but the offense continues to struggle. Are you encouraged or concerned?
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Sam Olbert. I'm a lifelong fan, taking my passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thanks for being part of the show and making Locked On Cubs your first listen today in the best way. You can help us grow the show as a listen every day. Like the video and give us a comment below. Happy belated Father's Day to everybody out there. Happy belated Father's Day to my dad. Happy belated Father's Day to my partner, Matt Cozy, who will be back for tomorrow's show. And I wish everybody a good Monday morning commute, all that good stuff. Got a really good packed show for you. I want to talk at the closing the show about Kyle Tucker and him potentially playing through a little bit of an injury. I want to go over some news and notes, some Matt Shaw stuff. We're going to recap this Cubs-Pirates series in full. But I want to start by just asking you a question, and I want you to comment below and give me a reason why. Are you encouraged right now that the Cubs continue to win despite not hitting? Or are you concerned because they are not hitting? I'm going to lay out the case for each, and then I'm going to tell you where I am at. Let's start with the encouraging signs, because I was called a hypocrite on Saturday, rightfully, by one of our listeners after our short after the Cubs beat the Pirates 2-1, because I was like, man, nice to win, but that was really tough offense to watch. And somebody's like, Sam, you're being hypocritical. You always say it's just about winning. It's just about winning. And you love one-run games. You love low-scoring games and all that stuff. And that's true. And they were right. But really, it's to an extent. You don't want to start doing it all the time because, there's some randomness to it. And you don't want to be doing it to the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Colorado Rockies, so on and so forth. But then I thought about that comment. I actually thought about that most of my Saturday. I went out for a change on Saturday night, and that comment was just sticking in my head. It was like, am I being a hypocrite? Is that true? Because, here's the case for being encouraged. Really good teams find a way to win regardless of how they're hitting, regardless of how they're pitching. In April, this team won by outscoring opponents when their bullpen really struggled. In May, this team won games kind of all sorts of ways. And now in June, the Cubs have had the best bullpen in baseball. They're now up to the 4th best bullpen ERA in all of baseball. And they're winning games because of their starting pitching, their defense, and their bullpen. And so one would say that's just the sign of a really good team. You win 10-9, you win 2-1, you can win any way possible. And that's kind of what I've been jealous of watching the Milwaukee Brewers do in the regular season for the last, 6-7 years, and the Cubs are doing that. Here's a great example. You guys always hear me say the key to a regular season, is when you're playing well, win as many games as you can. And when you're playing poorly, still see if you can just scrape out as many wins as you can. Maximize the great stretches, minimize the bad stretches. I would say the last 10 games, the Cubs have really struggled offensively. Their record, 6-4. That's a really good sign. That's really, really encouraging. The Cubs have the second best record in all of baseball in one-run games. The Cubs have the second best record in the National League, period. These are all cases to be very, very encouraged, even though the offense is struggling. And look, you could also just play the game. It's Father's Day. The Cubs are 5.5 up on the Milwaukee Brewers. Any one of us would have taken that at that time. But I just think that it is encouraging to watch this team win games despite not hitting. And you have to throw in the ballpark factor, the ballpark conditions. I thought Ian Happ did a pretty good job post-game talking about it on Sunday, where he was like, it's not even just the wind blowing in, taking away home run balls. It's guys now cheating in the outfield and playing way in, so they're taking away line drive singles and things like that. And guess what? As frustrating as the wind has been, the Cubs are winning at home. They're as good of a home team as any team, not named the Mets in baseball, and the Mets just got swept at home this weekend. So The encouraging signs are winning when you don't have your best, right? Winning and just surviving the year, because every team is going to go through a hot stretch, a cold stretch, and a few more of each. I just mentioned the Mets got swept this weekend, right? The Dodgers have been sleepwalking through this season. You're going to have those stretches. The problem with last season you had that stretch for 2 consecutive months. But another reason to be encouraged is last season, in combination with struggling so much offensively, the bullpen was a mess at the exact same time. And that's what put the Cubs over the edge, right? How many of these 3-2, 2-1 games, how many leads did the Cubs have during May and June of last year? And it was like, well, we needed a score there because we know the bullpen can't hold it. I mean, I could think of literally just right now, walk-off in Tampa Bay, walk-off in Frisco, a 3-run blown lead against San Francisco at Wrigley, just right off the top of my head during this stretch. Whereas right now, the narrative's different because the bullpen is carrying the team. They're closing down those games. So, while one part of your team is struggling, the other is flourishing, and that's a really good sign. Maybe that's a sign of a good team. Maybe that's just a little bit of luck, and last year they had really bad luck with that. I don't know. But I think the case to be encouraged is, hey, you're winning baseball games, even though you're not playing your best. That's what good teams do, and you've put yourself in a great position, as we sit here in mid-June. The case to be concerned is simple. Are we positive? Are we positive that this is the offense, that the offense we saw in April, is that actually the real offense? Or is it closer to this? Or is it somewhere in the middle? Because this offense in April looked like a legitimate World Series contending offense. They were unbelievable. They were relentless. Now you look, Carson Kelly's not that guy anymore. Right? Dansby's been up and down. We're going to talk about Matt Shaw. Even Tucker, he's been fine, but he hasn't been, great. But another hot stretch is coming for him in the offense. But the concerning thing is, hey, if this offense could do this for 3 weeks like they have been and really struggle, is that going to happen again? Is it going to come back in October? Is this a good enough offense in October? Can they hit good pitching? All those things are really fair questions to ask right now because they've been struggling. It isn't a small funk here. I mean, you go all the way back to the Rockies series. They have really struggled offensively, and it's situational. I think that's the most concerning thing for me. It's not home run balls. They're not taking as many walks, but it's the situational hitting that bothers me the most. I mean, there are so many examples even this weekend of not getting that job done. And when you look at it, you're so reliant really on your big four, which is Tucker, Pete, Seiya, and Bush. And, Seiya is guessing half the time up there. Sometimes it goes great. Sometimes it doesn't. Tucker, may or may not be battling a finger injury. Pete is still young and is going to go through stretches, and Bush is neutralized, against left-handers. So there's a lot there. Maybe you need another bat. You're probably not going to be able to get it just based off of where the positions are. But I think there is a case to be concerned, and it's very fair because it's been frustrating to watch. I still have to lean towards being encouraged right now because I've watched a lot of Cubs teams, and I still have last year so fresh in my head. And the fact is, last year they lose 3 out of 4 this weekend. And that's not even really a hypothetical because they did. It was Mother's Day weekend last year. It wasn't Father's Day weekend. They lost 3 out of 4. This year, despite playing, not great offensive baseball, they found a way to win 3 out of 4. And I know, the bats are going to heat up. The weather is going to heat up, and they're going to hit again. And at some point, the pitching's going to struggle again. And, Drew Pomerantz and Chris Flexen are going to let up runs, right? I just think for whatever reason, and I think it's just because of wins and losses, this is a results game. I just think this struggle feels more ebbs and flows to the season versus last year where it was like, hey, something's fundamentally wrong to be this bad for this long. Obviously, they need to get it together soon, but to continue to win games, to have the second best record in the National League, to be 5.5 games up in first place, I have to, I couldn't look this camera in the lens and be negative and say that I'm overly concerned because, good teams find ways to win. It's about winning. That's what it's about. It really is. And nobody's going to remember in October if this team wins 98 games and is, number 1, number 2 seed. Nobody's going to remember that, late May into mid-June, they struggled a little bit offensively. It's part of the game. But it's frustrating, and it's definitely raising a couple eyebrows. But I still, overall, am on the encouraged side, while understanding why people would be concerned. Coming up next, we're going to talk about this rough, low-scoring, kind of boring series, and break down some offensive struggles and outstanding pitching performances. All that coming up next. This episode is brought to you by OpenPhone, our new partner. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. I wish umpires felt that way. Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? Of course not. You just called the next one. That's why having a reliable business line is so important, and that's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. Did you juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? OpenPhone will solve that instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more "who's handling this" questions. OpenPhone is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. That's OpenPhone.com/LockedOnMLB. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone. No missed calls, no missed customers. We are back here on Locked On Cubs, where the Cubs were able to take a series for the Pirates, 3 out of 4, in what felt like a game in 1898. Scores of these games: 3-2 Cubs, 2-1 Pirates in 10, 3-2 Cubs. No, 2-1 Cubs, and then 3-2 Cubs in 10. I mean, it reminded me of that Yankees series last September. We already recapped Thursday's game. So let's go to Friday's game, which was by far the most disappointing game. Obviously, the only game they lost the weekend, but one of the more disappointing games I thought of the season, and I'm going to tell you why. Paul Skeens was on the bump, and the Cubs did well against him. And I know you guys are saying, Sam, how could you say that? They didn't score a run. Yeah, but they got him out after 5. Cade Horton was magnificent. I would even go as far as to say Cade outpitched Skeens in this ball game. It was a 0-0 game, 6th inning. Dansby Swanson at the plate, 2 on, nobody out. Cubs didn't score. Cubs had many other opportunities to score. They couldn't get it done. In the 10th inning, down a run. Bednar came in, man on second, no outs. You had top of the order up, couldn't score, lost the ball game. And that was when I was like, okay, there is a real situation here offensively. That carried over into Saturday's game, where the Cubs won that game 2-1. But before we talk about the offense, Matthew Boyd should be in Atlanta. Matthew Boyd should be in Atlanta, okay? This guy was unbelievable again. Listen to this. He has had 10 games this season where he's allowed 2 runs or less. He has also had 10 games this season where he's gone at least 6 innings of work, and he has had 1 start this season where he's allowed more than 3 earned runs. He was spectacular again on Saturday. Cubs grinded out a run, and then Dansby Swanson hit a solo shot in the 6th with nobody on, 2 out. More on Dansby here shortly. And the Cubs bullpen was able to hold it down and win the ball game 2-1. And then on Sunday, it was like, Colin Ray's really regressing here. Gives up 2 in the first. Cubs bounced back beautifully, tie the game in the first 2-2. Another clutch hit from Dansby, really. And the Cubs probably should have had more runs that inning. Seiya hit a ball where he should have been safe. The runner was off, the first baseman was off the bag. Cubs didn't challenge for some odd reason. Ian Happ stole a bag to get them going. It was a pretty good series for Ian. Obviously, he ended up walking it off late. But again, it was just Colin Ray settled in, did a really nice job. Bullpen was really good. Chris Flexen continues to just be one of the many unsung heroes of this Cubs bullpen and Cubs pitching staff. And then some interesting strategy in the 10th. The Cubs pinch hit Tucker to get walked, but then Brujan got a double steal. Birdie struck out. You guys know how I feel about his offensive performance this season. It's really been some of the more eye-opening things I've seen, because the guy's here to put the bat on the ball and he strikes out a ton. And then Ian got an 0-2 mistake from Bednar and won the baseball game. So the Cubs won. I want to talk. My takeaway from this weekend is Matthew Boyd. Wow. Cade Horton, really, really been good. Don't even think Cade's gotten enough credit, to be honest with you. Just a rookie that hasn't pitched a ton of innings, just coming in here and really just being like a solid guy for the Cubs. He's had maybe one bad start since he's come up. I mean, he's really been helpful. And I'm really excited to see kind of how his year grows and what they do with him. A lot of people have asked me, well, when Imanaga comes back, does Cade go down? I don't think so. I think, someone like maybe Genesis Cabrera would be gone, and Ray would go to the bullpen, and that's where Imanaga would fit in. But Cade's been great. But I want to talk about Dansby a little bit here. That's what I want to talk about from this series, because I got on Dansby, and then he hit a homer and had a decent day, and I didn't really get on Dansby. I don't think Dansby Swanson should be batting fifth. Okay. Before Sunday's game, his WRC plus with runners in scoring position was like in the mid-teens. With runners on base, it was in the mid to high 50s. And with nobody on, it was, really solid, close to 130. Okay. I don't want a 5-hitter that doesn't feel comfortable hitting with runners in scoring position. And Counsell talked a little bit about Dansby this weekend. He's like, when you can get, however many homers Dansby has, when your shortstop's hitting that many homers, that's a really, really good sign. And it's like, absolutely. But it would be way better if he were doing that in the 6, 7, 8 hole. And to be honest with you, it would be way better, if it was in the 7 or 8 hole. And I know like 13 homers is a lot of homers. That's how many homers he has. I think that's the same amount as Kyle Tucker has. But I just think the offense makes so much more sense with Nico Hoerner in the middle there. And I know Counsell is not a big order guy. He doesn't think it matters that much. But I just think you have Hoerner hit behind Pete. There's so many things you could do. You could just run Pete and tell Nico to just swing, but just, make sure you're, Nico's one of the only guys in baseball that actually could steer the ball. Just say, hey, Nico, if you're going to swing, just make sure it goes, we're going to right field here because Pete's going to be on the move. You can play hit and run. Nico's your best hitter. I was about to say Nico's your best Hoerner. Nico's your best hitter with runners in scoring position. And let Dansby ambush people from the 7-8 hole. The offense felt so good when it was like that, and I don't understand why it's been forced there. And it's not as much a knock on Dansby as it is just what that spot in the order calls for. I want my 5-hitter. I'm not worried about slug right now. When I have Tucker, I got Say, I got Bush. I am worried about with runners in scoring position, situationally, can we move runners along? Can we find a way to get big hits, especially when Wrigley is playing the way it is? It's a very difficult place to hit the ball in the park. So you got to string some hits together. You got to move guys over. And I just think Nico is more adept at doing that than Dansby Swanson. It's not a knock on Dansby. He might hit 2 homers on Tuesday night in Milwaukee. It's just, I think the offense is better with him down and Nico up, and even his good spells. Now, he had a really important clutch hit on Sunday in the first inning to right field. If he does more of that, then it's a totally different ball game. But he doesn't do a lot of that. He's pulling off the ball. He strikes out a lot. He goes up and down. It just, to me, that's a guy that should be sitting at the bottom of the order. The cold streaks are going to happen. The hot streaks are going to happen. Let them happen down there. That was just my take. Overall, it was a very good weekend for the Cubs in terms of wins and losses. You just can't say enough about the bullpen and really the defense too. I thought Nico Hoerner made a play in the 10th inning on Sunday that he made it look really easy. It was man on second, 2 outs. Cubs were trying to keep the ghost runner from scoring, and it was a line drive right up the middle. Off the bat, I thought for sure it was a hit, but you just never know where guys are playing these days. You knew Nico was going to be shaded up the middle for the righty, and he made a diving catch. He made it look easy, but there's a lot that could happen on that type of play, and I thought that was honestly as big of a play as any offensive play in the game. So, the takeaway from the weekend is obvious. You win 3 out of 4. The offense is struggling. Hopefully the offense can get right. It's going to get a lot warmer here this week. So I think the condition part of things will probably be less of an excuse. And, hopefully the Cubbies can just, put up a 10 spot or an 11 spot at some point this week, or do what I love, put up 5, 7, 5, 6, 6, just consistent run production to get out of this slump. Part of the reason I think they're in this slump is because I think Kyle Tucker, and this is me putting on my conspiracy hat. I got a new one. If you're watching on YouTube, new Cub hat. Here it is. And my conspiracy hat on is telling me that Kyle Tucker might be a little bit more hurt than everybody thinks. We're going to talk about that and a huge baseball trade coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made from the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast. And the Cubs need to steal more bases if they're not going to hit the ball out of the ballpark from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now, it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. We are back here on Locked On Cubs, and Craig Counsell talked about Kyle Tucker on Sunday, and he didn't really have a quote at all. It was just he's kind of dealing with it in regards to his finger injury. That was, and that's not even a direct quote, but just putting 2 and 2 together. It's still there. Those are the type of things that Counsell was saying about Tucker's finger. And if you just read between the lines there and you just use context clues, they gave him off a day before an off day. That means they wanted to give him 2 days. And that's what Counsell even said. He's been DHing a lot more. I don't think that finger is quite right. And there's been some metrics that have come out about his swing speed, his bat speed, and things like that are a little bit down. I've been noticing a lot of rollovers lately. And I'm not sure that he's quite right now. And I don't really know what that means because, is he the type of guy that could just play through something like this? With the money that he has at stake, he's not going to play hurt for long because the numbers this year, every time he hits a home run, it's another $10 million in his pocket. I mean, the guy's in a walk year and has a chance to make $500+ million. So, Kyle Tucker seems like a great dude, a super team first guy, but I don't think he'd put himself through this if he were really, really hurt. I just think he's a little bit banged up and it might be affecting his play a little bit. Hopefully getting off on Sunday, not having to play, getting the day off, basically the whole day off because they pinch hit for him, but he got intentionally walked. So he didn't have to swing the bat. And then, having that full off day Monday, maybe we see a Kyle Tucker 2 home run game against Colin Patrick and the Brewers on Tuesday. Matt and I are going to be previewing all of that for Tuesday. That's going to be a big preview show and a big series. But keep an eye out on that for Kyle Tucker. And let's see how he responds to some off days. Some other news and notes. Imanaga is scheduled to throw Friday in Des Moines. So I would probably guess he'll have 2 rehab stints, maybe 3, but hopefully back, if he's going to throw Friday, hopefully back in, I don't know, maybe about 10. I guess if he had 2 stints, he wouldn't be back in 2 weeks. But, they said well into June. And at this point, I just hope he's back sometime in June. But all's going well, sounds like, with his recovery. And we should have him back soon. It'll be interesting to see how he looks pitching in a real baseball game. I wanted to just bring up Matt Shaw and the Sunday lineup. So the Cubs kind of ran out what you call in the business a Sunday lineup, which is just like kind of a, hey, we're going to get a day off here. This guy's going to get a day off. Let's just see what happens. And the Cubs did that. But Matt Shaw, in June, he's batting 188, 294, 292. And I got to tell you, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself on this one because when things were going well with Shaw when he first came back, now there was a clear couple of at-bats, especially in Miami, where he was driving the ball. There was improvement. I'm not trying to minimize Matt Shaw's improvement here, but the same issues are there. He is not hitting the ball hard. A lot of his hits are infield hits. And I want you to understand what I'm saying here. I'm not at all talking about Matt Shaw, the future. I'm just talking about Matt Shaw, the 2025 Chicago Cub third baseman, in a year the Cubs hopefully are going to go all in and try and win a championship. I think the ceiling on him is lower than I thought it was offensively. I'm not saying that long term. That would be crazy to say. It's his first year. I'm just talking about this season, this individual season. I thought there was just more pop in the bat, and he showed it. He had a nice home run in Detroit, but he's starting to take pitches again. The strikeouts are increasing, and I just watch very carefully Matt Shaw's at bats. Defensively, he's been outstanding. But I think it's time to start watching Matt Shaw's at bats very carefully again, because this offense, one thing it is showing is that it's not good enough to have a big hole in it. And obviously, transitioning into the biggest news of the day, right at, about an hour before I'm recording this, Rafael Devers got traded to the Giants. And what I think is one of the most shocking trades I can remember in baseball, just considering the fact that the Red Sox just swept the Yankees. I know the Red Sox are saving a bunch of cash, and good for the Giants for going for it. Now the Giants are really serious. I wasn't taking them very seriously, but now they are. But you just have to think about it. Could the Cubs make a move there and just say, hey, Matt, let's take the pressure off you. We believe in you. We believe in your future. But we want another real solid bat at that. I doubt it, but just keep an eye on his at bats, because they're starting to trend towards what they were before he got sent down the first time. Just want to go around the league a little bit here before we get out of here on this Monday. Diamondbacks won a series against the Padres. They're not done yet. I know a lot of people think that Gallen and Kelly could be targets for the Cubs. Diamondbacks aren't done yet. I mentioned it earlier. The Mets got swept by the Rays, and I just jotted that down as a number one. I don't think the Mets were as dominant as they were playing. The scary thing for the Mets is just Juan Soto hasn't hit. And so if Soto starts to hit, what are they going to be? But I think it's also just a good reminder. The Mets were the best home team in baseball. They were flying high. They're playing great, and they got swept. Like, these things happen throughout the course of the season. I remember the 16 Cubs got swept in a doubleheader by the Padres, who won 60 games that year. These things happen throughout the course of a season. I just jotted that down. I thought that was really interesting. Brewers took 3 out of 4 from St. Louis. I don't want to talk too much about the division, because I think Matt and I will for tomorrow, but the Brewers now have leapfrogged St. Louis and, look like the team that's going to be chasing the Cubs, and the Cubs are going to have an opportunity, obviously, this week to, really build themselves a nice lead. The Reds took 2 out of 3 in Detroit, which I thought was pretty impressive. And that's all. This trade, the biggest thing in baseball all over the place you're going to see on Monday is this Devers trade. I mean, this guy is a 900-plus OPS. He's a stud. I know he was unhappy there. I know there's money at stake and all that stuff. But, man, and for those of you saying, well, why couldn't the Cubs make that trade? Well, I don't want to ruin your Monday, but the Giants are taking on the full money in that deal, and I don't think the Cubs are willing to do that for Rafael Devers, $250 million. And if they did, that would basically send Kyle Tucker out the door. So that wasn't going to happen. But, wow, the National League is really, really loaded, and the Cubs are one of the biggest reasons why. So Matt will be back. Tomorrow will be a really fun show. I'm so excited to have him back. Talk Cubs Brewers, the team that I fear the most, the team that I've scoreboard watched the most over the last 6-7 years. We're 5.5 up on them. Can we build that lead and really have a get-right offensive series? They're going to have some tough pitchers that are going, but, man, I cannot wait to talk about that one. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs. You give us 30 minutes, and we'll give you all things Cubs with a laugh or two along the way. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, smash the like button for the algorithm, and leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. I'm Sam Olber, and this is Locked On Cubs. Happy Monday, everybody.